Hello again. All right, today we're going to start our first lesson in visual communication. So basically, we're going to learn to draw. But I like to give it that fancy word because, again, I like to reinforce the idea that this is a language that I feel like everybody can learn, and it would be, I think, fulfilling to learn because then you could draw and you can have fun with it, and keep learning and growing and explore new and exciting skills. So the first lesson, we're gonna go over real basic ground level stuff. Like I'm talking about like the ABCs almost of art or drawing or visual communication, whatever you want to call it, you can call it. Um, so we're talking about lines, talking about shapes, and then we're going to get into maybe some forms. So first, let's start with the lines. And for today, I'm going to be using this just basic newsprint. I think it's Pro Art. It doesn't matter what brand you choose for this. This is just like it's called newsprint. Basically, it's like drawn on newspaper without all the words and the pictures and the horrible news and stuff. So we could just flip it open. I got a pretty large pad here. It doesn't You don't need a particular size. I would recommend this size. This is a good, I think this is like a 20 by, was that like a 20 by 16 or something? I can't remember. But around this size is good. It's good to have a large scale sometime. I mean, for beginners, I think. And I like to stand up when I'm, I like to sit and I like to draw in bed and, be lazy and do it that way too. But I think for the beginning stages when you're learning, it doesn't really matter. Draw how it, but I'm going to be standing up for this. But I think you'll see when you're standing, you'll really see it's a lot of people think that drawing is just using your wrist or whatever, like you're writing, but that's far from the truth. I mean, you can use obviously those skills of writing for certain aspects of drawing, but I would say they're more for more detailed and nuanced stuff where you'd be using those motions like this. But when you're drawing, it's kind of a full body workout in a way. I mean, mostly I would say your shoulder and your arm. So I would, maybe even before you're even drawing, just kind of like, do some like sort of wave your arms around, be silly, whatever, get out any tightness, and because we're really going to be using the shoulder and the arm and a little bit of the hand, but not really for these beginning marks. It's a lot of it is like you think of Karate Kid, like the painting the fence kind of stuff, like it's going to kind of be like that. So using the full motion. So let's get this started. Let's get something on the board here. So let's say this line, right? So I'm using my whole arm, right? I'm going back and forth, sort of if I had a big paintbrush, and I'm just going like this, like this, like this, right? That's a horizontal line. And what I'm not doing is going like this, like which we're used to. We're used to writing letters and stuff, right? So it's all short and tight, and which that, like I said, has a place in time. But for right now, we're being loose, messy, and we're just trying to get an overall horizontal line, right? So every line has a certain character to it. So this horizontal line, I always like to think of, you know, when you're at the beach and you see the ocean and the skyline meet, and it kind of just looks like it goes on and on and on forever or whatever, but it looks like there's like a line that separates the sky from the ocean. And in reality, it's not a line, you know, it's because we know that it's just we just can't see, you know, it's just like an optical thing. But it looks like a line, so it's a horizontal line. But what I like to think of, you know, the ocean and the horizon line, what it's helpful to think of is it's a calming line, right? It's very neutral. It's very like, there's not much going on, right? Just going back and forth, almost like the waves are going back and forth and back and forth. So that's the way I like to think of. So if you can kind of think of it like that, so when you're doing it, you're, yeah, almost, and then it kind of makes you feel calm because you're like, all right. So that's a very nice stable line to use. You're going to be using that a lot, you know, in lining things up. Like all these lines are kind of, you're going to line things up like almost like they're almost like grid lines. So that's like the horizontal is one of them lines, right? Now the next line is going to be an up and down line. So like painting the fence, right? So up, down, up, down, up, down. And it's all right if it gets a little sloppy like that one bowed a little bit, but we're just practicing that motion. We're just trying to get our arm in these. See how the whole arm is moving? That's the way we want to move, not short and choppy like this. We're trying to, each one of these lines, it's like an energy. You're trying to create like an energy kind of thing. Change your whole mindset about, I'm trying to draw a perfectly vertical line, or I'm trying to draw a perfectly horizontal line. That's not what we're doing here. We're just trying to capture sort of the overall energy of the lines, right? So we got horizontal, we have a vertical. Now the vertical, like you know, characteristically, I like to think of it as it's a very powerful and it's a very stable line, similar to the horizontal, but it's, you know, it's upright. So it's like sort of ascending towards the sky. Like it's almost, I like to think of like an old building, like they have pillars, so it's very powerful. You know, it can support the weight. It almost supports the weight of the horizontal, you know. You could think of like a horizontal, right? And then you could put two verticals next to it, and those two verticals now support that horizontal, so they keep that horizontal standing. So now the next line we have is the diagonal. So that's like got a lot of action to it, you know. It's like you're almost like throwing something to the ground or throwing something up, almost like throwing a frisbee or something, right? This line's very dynamic. There's a lot of action. You know, it can go either way too, right? It can go either up and ascending, or it can go crashing down. It's almost like, I don't know, you think of like the stock markets or something where it's like, it's going down, 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 or it's going up, 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 or, you know, I would think of maybe something a little bit more pleasant, but, and I think a lot about like, yeah, it's just very action-packed, the diagonal, whereas the vertical and the horizontal are more, they're more stable and steady, and they're just there, but the, like, boom, it's just a lot of action in there. And this all kind of maybe sounds silly, but we're gonna get deeper, and you know, it's gonna start to make sense why we're talking about them now, but just trust me. So then we've got the next lesson I want to go over is, well, actually there's one more, or there's a couple more marks or lines as I would say. So there's the curve line, right? So we haven't even talked about that because that's got a lot of, so the curve, we're really getting kind of loose, a little silly here, right? Because now we're talking about the curve. The curve is like, it's like everywhere in nature. There's, you look at the waves, they're all like curvy, and, or you look at maybe like a person, like, or a female, like the hourglass shape, that classical kind, or like a vase where it has that like really curvy, and you think, oh, that's very graceful, that's very beautiful. Like that's usually our associations with the curve, or you think of like an S, or like a river going down and curving. And so the curve is just it's a fun line. It's what usually we go to when we're like scribbling or something, and so that's the curved line. So that's a line that kind of breaks the mold between, like, all these other lines are straight up and down, diagonal. They're very kind of I want to say like man-made, if that makes sense. Whereas the curve, there's something natural about that. There's just something, because when we look out into nature, it's like there's not a lot of straights. Even a tree, there's like slight bows in it. It's like curvy and, different root systems, but the straights are more like, you go to the city, you're going to see a lot of straights because of the architecture and the buildings. But the curve, it defies all that, it's like, it's Mother Nature incarnate, basically, is the curve. It goes wherever it wants to go, It's like a storm, like it just goes all over. All right, gotta catch my breath here. This is exciting, guys. So there's the dot, or the point. The point is basically the beginning and the end, and it's just a dot. It's, like an end of the sentence, blah, 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 period, or you call it a period or whatever. So that's just the starting of a line and an ending of a line. So you can kind of put a dot, like, it's like connect the dots or something. That might be a fun exercise. You put like a bunch of dots on the paper, and then maybe you start with a straight line, and then you do a curve, and then you do a diagonal, and you kind of just follow these lines and continue the arm motions. So that's just basically, the beginning of the journey and then the end of the journey. It's sort of like the dot or the point. It basically it tells the line where it starts and where it ends. It's it's pretty simple. So we're getting to about like 14 minutes. I don't want to make this any longer than like 15 minutes. So I'm probably going to end it here. But for the next lesson, I think we'll go into shape. And shape, basically, just as a quick overview before I end this video, is like, it's just going to combine those lines that we learned right here, and then it's going to create the shapes. So that's all these things are going to build on to each other, basically. So yeah, stay tuned. I think if you want to, there's subscribe button in the right hand corner. It's free and everything, so just, and it'll just let you know when my videos or whatever are out. And let's end it here.